So summer's here and it's time to find a tent. We're going to look at two tents from my favorite company. One of my favorite tent companies is Nemo. We're looking at the Hornet Osmo versus the Dagger Osmo. So jumping right into it, these are both two-person, three-season double wall tents. Starting with the Hornet, one of the first differences in these tents is that this is a semi-freestanding. So it has a pole that keeps the majority of the tent standing up, but you still have to stake it out. And you can see you have to stake the tent out at the front, otherwise it won't reach its full size. And the Dagger is a freestanding tent, so it's fully supported by its poles, and you don't have to stake it out. And you can see here, this is totally self-supporting. So we're going to look at internal space, trail weight, fabric, vestibule, poles, ventilation, and price. These tents come with a lot of little features, but these are the main ones that we're going to focus on. So internal space. The Dagger is bigger than the Hornet, and this is to be expected because the Dagger is a freestanding tent. But you can see that in terms of width, um, you lose about a half a foot with between the Hornet and the Dagger. And so just to give you guys more of a visual on that, so you can see the Hornet. Basically, it's like a bivy structure, and it kind of narrows from the top to the bottom, and so you lose about half a foot of width because the tent narrows at one end. So squeezing in two sleeping pads, it's going to be tight. I don't think you can do it. So this is a really snug tent, and even though it's technically two person, I think for two people it would get fairly claustrophobic, especially when you're spending more than a day or two in this tent. If you compare the Dagger with the internal space, it's much more spacious, much more luxurious. You can definitely fit two full size, like regular size sleeping pads in this tent. So, to kind of reiterate, the Dagger gives you more internal space than the Hornet. In addition to the Dagger has, it's about 3.5 feet tall, and the Hornet is about 3.2 feet tall. So in terms of trail weight, Hornet is significantly lighter than the Dagger by about a pound. So they both come with these stuff sacks, which is really handy. And both of these tents I think are pretty easy to carry around. But when you're hiking long distances or backpacking or mountaineering, you want to go as light as possible. So the Hornet would definitely be preferred. So in terms of fabric, they actually have the same fabric, and the Osmo stands for Nemo's proprietary. Um, it's like a composite of polyester and nylon, and to my knowledge, they're the first tent company to do this. And it's created specifically. They made it to be um, 4 times more water resistant and 3 times less stretch when it gets wet. So we've all been in a tent where it's raining and the tent starts to sag because, as it's collecting water, it's just starting to sag and it can't retain its shape. So Nemo's designed this Osmo fabric to be a lot more weather resistant. It's made from recycled polyester and nylon yarns, and it does have like a polyurethane coating to be waterproof. Another nice, feature on these tents is that it's made without those forever chemicals, so it doesn't have PFAS chemicals, it doesn't have fire retardants. It's Blue Sign approved, which means it was made without not, toxic ingredients. So the fabric is definitely a cool selling point. Next, getting to doors and vestibules. They both come with two doors, which is great, and two vestibules. The Dagger has a much bigger vestibule, so more storage because that's where you'd put things like your shoes and your backpack and any sort of gear. So to zoom in on these, you can see the Hornet, like basically the vestibule is this little area that's kind of between the body and this guy line on the tent, and it doesn't appear to have any real protection from the bottom from the elements. So it seems like if you put your shoes here or some gear, it could get wet. It's just also not a very big space. The Dagger, on the other hand, much bigger, and you get these landing zone storage tubs, which, I mean, for me, is kind of like a game changer because you can put your stuff in here and not have to worry about it getting wet through the night. So it's like a dedicated storage. So in my mind, the Dagger definitely excels when it comes to the vestibule. And next, we're going to go into poles. So they both have the same DSE Featherlight NSL pole, which is it's really considered to be the highest quality because they're usually thicker and stronger than just plain aluminum. They're also more environmentally friendly because they're made without nitric and phosphoric acid. So the Hornet has a fly bar with a volumizing pole bar. It's a tongue twister. And the Dagger has a hubbed pole structure and it's color coded. Um, both of these tents should be really easy to set up, but the Dagger will be a little more involved because it's a bigger tent. But you can see the hub structure gives it a lot of internal volume. So ventilation, I definitely think that the Hornet kind of uh, provides better airflow than the Dagger. And they both have these no CM mesh body. So when you take your rain fly off, you have some nice airflow going through the tent. It also gives you protection from the bugs. However, with your rain fly on, because both of these tents are double walled, so they're going to retain heat inside the tent. So when you look at the Hornet, you can see that there's a good amount of separation between the rain fly and the body. And they also have these guy out struts at the corners so you can get some airflow between the rain fly and the body of the tent, um, which makes it a lot more comfortable inside the tent. The Dagger, on the other hand, there's like no space between the rain fly and the body. So this tent, if you're fully sealed in there with your rain fly, it's going to get pretty humid, I would imagine. I mean, it's good in the sense of if you're in a heavy rain, downpour, or it's really windy, your tent's going to be pretty hermetically sealed. But on the other hand, that can get a bit uncomfortable um, without some good ventilation. So, in terms of price, the Hornet is definitely cheaper by about $100. You can find these tents on sale sometimes, but this is, the price you're gonna find for the most part. So all in all, how do they compare? Now, from my research of these tents, I think, and also my knowledge of Nemo, these are solid tents. Either way, these are good, well-made tents. Um, that said, it really depends on what you're planning to do. So if you are going, backpacking long distances or mountaineering, and comfort isn't as important in terms of space. The Hornet Osmo is the way to go because it's lighter. It has, it still gives you good ventilation and it's cheaper. Um, and it's a very durable, weather-resistant tent because of the Osmo fabric. So I think a tent like this, because you really just want to go as light as possible and you need a solid structure. However, if you are more kind of focused on having more comfort in terms of your space, and also more storage, then you want to go with the Dagger. It's a little bit heavier by a pound. Um, so take that in consideration if you are doing like a backpacking trip, but you're going to be more comfortable inside the tent. However, you do have to consider the ventilation if you're going to completely seal your rain fly. So that said, I think all in all, this is a more durable, spacious um, tent. So it's going to be more comfortable, you know, over the long term. So hopefully this video was useful to you guys. If you guys have any experiences or comments about these tents, please leave them in the comment section. I would love to know. And there are tent links in the description so you can check them out yourself. And have a great summer. Happy camping.